The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves. And our podcast producer, Ascend Media, Authority Syndication, delivering premium video marketing, podcast production, and social syndication.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast where spirituality is not feathers, is not messages from above, it's everything. It's breathing, is going to the gym, is eating food, is washing the dishes. It should be called a mindfulness of being human podcast. But I named it Spirituality Now because I believe that if you're present in the moment, taking responsibility for your creation and of your creation and aware and becoming a better human being, whether it is through meditation, through reading, through serving people, through serving communities, just being a good human. I don't think I have found something as high spiritual that is. You know, spirituality for me is not only channeling or a message in a book from thousands of years ago. I'm a believer that we are really human beings experiencing as the spiritual, mental, emotional aspects of all that is to be human while we're alive on earth. And that's spirituality for me. You know, it's something practical, something that is accessible for anyone. It is you conquering a fear. It is you accomplishing a success in your business. Is you being who you are. The highest spiritual service we can do to humanity is not only knowing who we are, but owning everything we are, doing our inner work, working through our darkness, through our shadows, owning it all, and choosing to be a good human, to serve others, support others, and elevate. I've been sharing about this to elevate others since, I believe, 2012. And, you know, I happen to have a mentor that I keep talking about him in most of my podcasts. His name is Tim Grover, and he's all about elevation too. I know very few people that focused on that. And I think that's what spirituality is for. Anyways, today it's a solo podcast. Today I have a message that I recently did a video for, and I think it's an important topic. But it's an emotion, it's a range, it's a lack of mastery of our feelings and emotions, and it's something that, when allowed to be expressed through us without awareness, it can destroy others and ourselves. Is the emotion called anger. And many years ago, I was initiated as a Swami from the Hindu tradition. I had teachers that came from India. I had an initiation process that I was not expecting, etc., etc. So I went through a process of initiation as Swami. A Swami, you know, is an adept of the spiritual laws, an adept of spiritual scripture, and someone that is actually focusing in becoming better. Look at me saying trying. I got to go back to my mindset training. I got to go back to read the books of my mentors anyways and apply them. But it's a focus of becoming a Swami, being initiated and given a name. My name that I was giving it was Swami Yogananda, the bliss of truth. And by no means, when I received that name and that initiation and the orange robes that I used to wear, especially when I was in India, and I cut my hair, not all of it because my vanity and ego were big. So I just cut it very short. It was not all the way bald, But it's a book of becoming. Far from it, I was the bliss of truth. It was more the misery of truth. I had to work through it. I'm working on it every day. I'm hoping to become more honest with who I am, with myself, and from there, with the world. But it was not that I was that. Obviously, at the core of my being, I was, but it was a deep work that I had to do. Anyways, so I was initiated as a Swami, and from the Kriya Yoga tradition in India, and from this Kriya Yoga tradition, which maybe one of the greatest scholars and teachers, very well known in America, is Swami Yogananda. Swami Paramahansa Yogananda, that came from India, assigned by his guru, mentor, teachers, from that sent him to America. He said to Yogananda, you have to leave the ashram, you have to leave India. His name was Sri Yukteswar, I forgot for a moment. And you have to leave just to teach the teachings of Kriya Yoga to the Western world. They're going to need it. And he came, and he was a very practical, very focused. He was like, kind of like the equivalent of the priest in church, but in the Swami tradition. He was a very powerful meditator. He wrote a book that literally every time I read it, my life changes. It's a metaphysical book. It's an initiation book. It's called Autobiography of a Yogi. If you haven't read it, please do so. But he was someone in the Kriya Yoga lineage. They have incredible teachings that are aimed to, like, neuroscience can back them up. Very scientifically proven, with that have to do a lot with activities in the external world, like breath work, like meditation, like movement of yoga, including the body in the part of this transcendence that we all want to experience in just becoming more aware, more alert, more present, more calm, more here. And one of the teachings of Kriya Yoga is the power of overcoming this emotion called anger. Because when you don't overcome it, it will overcome you and it will become you. And when it becomes you, you become like this monster and this rageful person, or this victim that turns into the tyrant. You don't find a middle path in it, because you have let anger conquer you instead of you conquer anger. And so I bring some of the words of Yogananda today, which I believe they are so needed for what humanity is experiencing. So much separation, so many distractions. I mean, can we talk for a moment about the emphasis? I mean, I apologize, for using your time for this, what I'm going to say. But can we even speak about that the whole media, the millions of dollars to advertise the divorce of Johnny Depp and his ex-wife, publicly, is much more than the money supporting local businesses that lost everything because of the pandemic. It's ridiculous to me to watch how very intelligent people are so focused on being on the side of him or her, of separation and division, of making it about whatever happens in the court, we will be impacted, our businesses can be impacted. That's a distraction tactic. And I may be wrong, but everything in my gut, in my core says, even focus on what you can do. Focus on your business. Focus on learning from experience. Focus on serving your community for betterment. Stop distracting yourself what is none of your business. One of my mentors, Byron Katie, says there are 3 types of businesses: mine, yours, and God's. What business are you in right now? If you are in the business of others, you are losing presence on your own. If you're in the business of God, trying to save the world, believe me, I had to believe my spiritual ego was so big that I wanted to save the world. The world doesn't need saving. We need our own saving. Anyways, these distractions, and this separation is giving justification for anger for so many people. And this is not the righteous anger of the Christ. This is a ridiculous, immature anger where people are projecting their own traumas and their own lack of inner work to really master themselves. Anyways, I was ranting on the podcast since it's only me. So I want to share with you some of the words of Paramahansa Yogananda for us to dive deep into the ability that we all have if we choose to master our emotions, to master our feelings, and to learn how to use them purposefully to elevate ourselves and others. So Yogananda used to say that anger defeats the very purpose for which it is aroused. It defeats the very purpose for which it is aroused. Anger is not an antidote for anger. What happens with a strong anger or wrath, it will cause another to suppress his weaker wrath, but it will never kill that weaker wrath. When you are angry, Yogananda used to say, you are called to say nothing, to take it and imagine that it is a disease, that you just suddenly caught the flu of lack of self-control, that you caught the virus of lack of awareness, and where you caught the virus of being triggered and letting your trigger take control over you. It's like the coming of a cold. And he said that to overcome anger, the first step was to break it up by mental warm baths. You're going to give your mind like, okay, let's take you to the bath. Let's calm you down, consisting of thinking of the good that you do want to make for yourself and others, or thinking about those who you could never be angry with, an animal, a child, so you can snap out of this trigger controlling this amygdala overactive in your brain. And just by bringing a conscious thought of, oh, I'm angry at these people, and anger is justified. It has a right to exist. But what you do with anger or in anger is what it's my focus on this podcast today, because you want to use your anger, that energy, resourceful. You want to create strategies. If it's for change, if you are angry at abuse and injustice, that there's a lot of that in the world right now. You want to be able to calm down, to think critical. That's spiritual. That spiritual, critical thought. So some of the tips that Yogananda said is, number one, you got to think of those with whom you can never be angry at. Because that moment gives your mind a possibility of, okay, let's get a control on this anger. Let's calm down, no matter how they behave. If your emotion is violent, Yogananda in the Kriya Yoga tradition used to say, you should take a cold shower, cold baths, those ice baths, those kind of Wim Hof moments of being in really cold, because anger is really hot. You feel like you are burning. You feel that you want to burn Rome again, right? You want to defeat everyone. It doesn't matter if it costs you the life of the people you love, you are going to take revenge. So instead of using that anger for that purpose, you take a cold shower so you get that energy. You want to alchemize that energy for the use of your good and for moving forward and for having clarity on how you need to act, who you choose to be. And he used to say that you can also, if you don't want to take a cold shower, because many people are going to complain, I don't like the cold, all of that, just put a piece of ice on the area of the brain where the medulla oblongata resides and the temples, just above the ears and the forehead. All of this is brain science. The prefrontal cortex, the parietal lobes, especially between the eyebrows, which really activates the pineal gland, and on the top of the head. You want to literally cool down. This is where it says, chill, cool down. You got to do that for yourself, because anger is the birthplace of jealousy, of hatred, of spite. Well, it's spicy too. Of spite, of revenge, of destructive behaviors and instinct. It's also, and when I read this of Yogananda, I was like, oh, I don't wish to go there. Anger also is the killer of ideas, of the good creative ideas, and it brings forth very dark, very shadowy, very destructive ideas. It brings brain paralysis and temporary insanity. And if you ever been in rage or anger, you know how insane that moment can be. And you cannot take it back, not with words, not with amends. It leaves a mark. It's like leaving the mark of the beast. Is this what this uncontrolled anger does? And this is what leads to many terrible crimes as we are witnessing in humanity. It is poison to peace and calm. It is the poison to your higher understanding. Anger is misunderstanding of who you are. So this, I love this. And you've heard that to conquer others in anger is the method of fools. It's just ridiculous. It's not sustainable.